the purpose of this interview is to really understand who made your clothes. It is about opening a conversation about the challenges of creating an ecological and sustainable fashion industry. Fashion Revolution's mission is to unite everyone in the fashion business, from the designers, makers, distributors, and wearers, working together to reduce fashion pollution and exploitation, and to improve the way clothing is sourced, produced, and consumed. It is a collaborative effort of the whole supply chain, from farmer to designer to consumer, in order to transform the industry into a positive and wonderful force. So welcome to today's talk.
Thanks.
So tell us a little bit about yourself first, who you are and what you design and why you design.
Yeah, I'm Ballardt, 27 years old, originally from Germany, but based in Antwerp, and I just graduated from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts with a mixed collection for men and women. Yeah.
And I'm Nico Verhaegen. I'm also 27 years old. I'm originally from Belgium and still based in Antwerp. And I also just graduated from the Royal Academy of Arts with an MA with a menswear collection.
So can you tell me a bit about your brand or your concept or your fashion creativity?
Yeah, again, we're both just students. There's no brand or anything. My collection is called Sticks. It was based around a mixture of the Sami culture that you have in Scandinavia, Norway, and bike messengers I saw in New York. And I saw a lot of overlaps between these two cultures, subcultures, if you will, and because they're from both sides kind of nomads, and I always tend to go design for people who never stay in the same place long. And I wanted to make it look as if the clothing was made on the way while traveling.
Yeah, and my collection shaped some sort of poetic punk. So I was indeed inspired by the punk culture, but more about the act of collecting and the romantic side of it than the rough side that we know from images. And I combined that with photographs that I took personally, collected over the years. Yeah.
It's exciting. It's really exciting to speak to you guys about sustainability in the fashion industry, which is one of the biggest polluters on the planet. So it's great to have you guys give us your insight as young and the future generation of designers and creatives. So tell us, are you incorporating sustainable practices or thinking in your designs?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't only collect photographs, but I collected materials, I collected images, samples, things that don't look like fabrics, but maybe could become something. And then it's just about experimenting and trying to incorporate them or make something nice out of something you didn't like so much. So for example, I did have some polyester fabrics scraps from friends or like still in my studio, and I don't like this material very much, but there's a technique of printing, sublimation print, which can upgrade these things and I can still use them rather than throwing them away just because I don't like them. And yeah, for me, it's a bit that collecting and then repurposing.
And for me, it's also, I like materials that already have lived a life. So I worked a lot with leather scraps, leftovers from factories. Fabrics with defects. And even things that aren't supposed to be a garment, like a bike reflector. I found ways with metal rings to put them together and make a garment from them. And then when dyeing, using natural plant-based dyes. Sustainability is a big, or like doesn't have a big impact. It's more of a starting point for how I work.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something, Julia?
yeah, for example, this year was the first year where I thought about it also in terms of patterns. So there's, for example, one shirt that was also the first silhouette that set the tone in a way, and the big piece in the back of a shirt, which swallows just a lot of fabric, I dissolved into geometric patches in the diamond shape, and like that I was able to cut the sleeve and the fronts first, and then just take as much as possible of the other space around, not cutting a big chunk out, but really using the leftovers and then knot these things together, and not patchworking it in the traditional way to sew them together, but they were individually finished, and then with a technique of ribbons like a shoelace, they were tied together, and it was a visual interesting thing. But for me, like, I knew that I was then able to use much less fabric or in a much more clever way because I had very tiny pieces to work with. So that was an interesting thing to work with.
Yeah, a really nice way of having, like, not zero waste cutting, but like as reduced as you possibly can. Same with me. If I use pieces of scrap leather, I can always add a bit more, add a bit there. Whatever I cut away, I add to a new piece. So in that sense, we both have very similar techniques to make very different garments with.
So with this lockdown in 2020, what did you find? There was kind of you couldn't get materials, you couldn't buy fabric, so you had to, could you go shopping to get materials? Because I guess there was some of the shops weren't open. What did you guys do? Because it was right in the middle of the pandemic.
You're right. The shops were closed, and a lot of our classmates also freaked out about it. And at first, of course, you feel like, okay, they're cutting off just all our possibilities. But I personally had already collected a lot of fabrics in this year and the years before. And it sort of encouraged me to really go for it. And I had, for example, a carpet laying around that somebody had given to me, and I wanted to use it, but I don't know if I would have done it with the lockdown. Because of the lockdown, it was just so clear, okay, you just like dive really into the things you have already and you make something. And I don't know, for me, it was something positive that these possibilities, this like overwhelming mass of possibilities was cut off. So I could like really arrive in my studio and in my world and finish it the way I wanted, actually.
Restrictions are always a nice thing to find a solution to work with them. I also didn't buy a single new fabric after the lockdown had started, and I just said, okay, I will finish this entire collection with everything I have in my atelier, and I did. And
fantastic. So regarding fast fashion, what are your thoughts on that?
No. Just no.
Okay, I love that answer. That's a great answer, you guys. Do you get your materials or your whatever you need, your production perhaps, where you get your clothes made? Is it in other countries, or is it locally done, or are you doing it yourself, or in the future?
Ourselves. We do everything ourselves because again, we were making one-offs just as students, and in terms of production, like, again, if you grow as a company, then you need to think about that. There is a few good factories in Belgium, but then you need to be able to afford them. So are you going to Portugal, for example, or Italy for your production? Maybe. But I think it's very much about like being able to work closely with the people that you that make your clothes. That's very important for me because I never gave anything to anyone to produce. So yeah, all my patterns and all my materials are very dear to me. So it's even hard to just make this jacket for me is really hard. So I want to be able to work very closely with the people that make the clothes, because there is always a certain emotional value you want to put into the clothes, even if it's like that seam that isn't done quite well, but at least I did it.
And what do you guys think about fair fashion?
Thing is, our garments are not for a mainstream public. I think people are always tended to go to an H&M or a Primark just because it's cheap, easy, and like you're constantly being told by that you're not good enough and that you need something new to be cool again and to be. And I think a lot of this has to do with like what society tells us to do,
it's
rather than
it's a bit both. It's like maybe you're not cool enough, but then it's also please don't stand out. It's like fit in, please. In a way, like that's how I feel when I walk towards these stores, like on these big shopping streets, and I see
because everyone wants to be different, but everyone looks the same. Plus we have to talk about actually being privileged to be in this position where we are, where we're making luxury garments that we probably couldn't even afford ourselves. I know that if I make a jacket, I have to ask 1,500, 2,000 euros for it. I'm not going to spend 2,000 euros on a jacket. I will go to a vintage store and buy one for 20 euros. Here and there, you buy like a special piece secondhand that you've been looking for super, super long. But it's also
in a way it's the challenge to make a sustainability democratic, so that everybody can afford it who would like to, because not everybody can, and some people are young and are educated already in that, but the pocket money is not enough to afford all of these things. And
but also like as long as companies still make t-shirts for like 2 or 5 euros, like there will be people buying those things. And that is also part of the problem, is that clothes are too cheap these days. I get that secondhand clothing is cheap, but like a t-shirt that is 2 euros
it's cheaper than a meal.
is unthinkable. You can't get a sandwich for 2 euros. If you take 5 euros, okay, you can get like a sandwich for 5 euros, but like if you think about like where that garment has been and who made that, it's disgusting. Like a 5 euro t-shirt is in itself like horrible. Like it hurts me to think about it.
In terms of fair trade, are you guys thinking about that? Like, okay, I'm going to buy my materials or source my materials from places that are certified or fair, or how are you even thinking about it? Or is it just something you guys are still, or is it like a futuristic thought for you?
Definitely, and also not, because we're both people that work rather with scraps and leftovers, and a lot of these brands or things that are like certified are not even like close enough to being or like not green enough. If you work really with leftovers, then you're working with waste, and essentially it will be thrown away otherwise. So that is as green as you can get to like my own experience, and you're still working with really nice materials. But I'm not gonna buy bio cotton just because it says bio. But I am interested in working with suppliers that really think about how they work. If you're working, for example, with fish leather can be developed just because it's leftovers from fishing industry. There's no fish being held just for the skin. So that is for example something that I would like to look into in the future. Also, all these new materials like apple leather that we talked about, milk silk, orange cotton, or I don't know, like all of these things are materials I'm willing to look into, but always with a pinch of salt, always with a bit of skepticism towards it, because there's never a full right answer, and I would want to find the full right answer towards materials like that.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that's great. So Fashion Revolution is really about who made your clothes. So yeah, what do you guys, did you guys, you went to a very famous school where you taught about fairness, fair fashion, ethical fashion? Like, do you know about the ethical brands, People Tree and,
Well,
Vivienne
we know
Westwood,
about it.
Stella McCartney? They're all like at least pro climate, like advocates for climate change or veganism or some sort of, on some level, trying some parts of sustainability.
It's not specifically taught. Last year we had some workshops. It was like a little lecture, a few of them, and it was people from Close the Loop, for example, who explained about that. But that is something that happens on one day, and then, yeah, our teachers are not really engaged with that. I don't know, maybe it's not their priority, and also, of course, they're design teachers, but I hope that when new people come in, they also feel the urge that we're demanding this kind of information and the discussion around it, because that's what it is. There is at the moment no clear right and no clear wrong. It's about the discussion and keep being busy with it.
Yeah.
I think that's important to just talk about it. Yeah, and I wanted to say something what you asked earlier about companies and like where to produce things. It's very difficult to answer because it depends on your size of your business. If that's what we have, it's not even a business, we're just students, but we're making things here and there. And also, of course, we had to produce our collection. And for example, I made accessories with my sister, who is a horse saddle maker. And we just were like fooling around a bit, and then a bag collection could come out of that with delicate craftsmanship. And I would love to invite more and more craftsmen into fashion, even people who are not specifically trained in that, because that's very exciting. I think it can create a nice tension, but from a certain size on, you can't do it the same way anymore. So from 100 pieces onwards, you would have to find other solutions.
But you never know. If you see Loewe, for example, or even if you look at like old Margiela, there was always this like artisanal part of it, and you could always keep that as like a special thing what the brand stands for.
Yeah.
So I don't think you need to change your approach as a brand towards it, but more like keep on doing it, but it will get more and more exclusive every time, because
I'm not saying I'm just thinking freely, because I want to, as you say, like also stay so small that I can do and I work with these people. But for a bigger brand, sustainability might then mean something else, because it's not possible to work with craftsmen or so. That's what I'm saying. So
but the thing is, there is proof that you can work with, like, that's the question. If you can shift the whole industry to becoming local versus international, because currently international or fast fashion is driven by these factories being in other countries that are creating all these underpriced goods in the West, if you want to call it the West. But in a sense, shouldn't we just shift everything? Like, I think, Julia, you have a great point of moving it towards artisanal.
I think that we should move towards how restaurants work. I think fashion should be way more farm to table, and that it would be, okay, these materials are available right now, so we'll make clothes from them, and they will be not a lot of clothes, but they will be good clothes.
Yeah, and op is op.
Op is op. And yeah, gone is gone. Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I agree. Farm to shop versus farm as well as farm to table. That's great concepts. Yeah,
jacket on the table, then it's farm to table anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. It's. I think you probably heard about like. There's also like renting your clothes out. So
yeah,
another like. Of course, you have to have some sort of business model.
Yeah, I don't believe in renting clothes. I believe in owning, loving, and repairing your clothes. Don't get anything you can't afford.
But again, repairing means there has to be kind of a system in place.
I also think that people are so disconnected from their clothes. Earlier, or like when you're talking, like mid 19th century or something, everyone could repair their clothes. Everyone was busy with it and was like had an idea how things were made. Even if you couldn't make clothes from scratch, you were able to like sew that hole in your pants. It's I think we're very disconnected from what we wear.
Maybe even the beauty of aging within clothing.
True.
Because who says that washed out color is not also pretty? Maybe in combination with another skirt or whatever you're wearing, maybe that t-shirt can become again quite nice, but because you used to see the original color in it, means to you it's like worth less or it's ruined. Maybe it's not. These are also little approaches that have nothing to do with the industry per se, but with your personal approach to your garments.
Shift of your own perspective. A dried flower is still pretty, although it maybe lost its color. But if you look at garments that way, then you keep on wearing it. You can keep it way longer.
So what's your dream for your sector or as creatives? What are you imagining? Do you have a positive outlook? Do you see innovation and sustainability? Do you see yourselves never, like, do you think
if we weren't I think if we weren't positive, we wouldn't be here. Then we would have stopped already.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negative to find. I personally have hope because I have ideas myself, and that's why I believe that things can change.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you guys have amazing ideas. I love the no to fast fashion, and then I also really liked all your comments about the farm to shop. I think I haven't heard that one. I'm sure someone's come up with it, but if it hasn't, here it is in this Fashion Revolution.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Farm to retail. And also your idea of artisanal, Julia, was brilliant as well. Like I know exactly what you're saying. It's like there's so much knowledge about interesting ways of making things by hand, and how can we apply it, and how do we connect with each other about it. So just to wrap up, what do you guys think? What would you improve about the world and the system? Is there any last comments about before that? Like, so how would you like to improve the fashion sector, or just generally improve the system?
Buy what you love and buy only the things you think you really, really want to have and you want to keep.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best start we can do, and the rest can fall into place. And that's the designer's job then. I think it starts with the customers also.
Yeah. And do your own research. And sustainability in that sense is also like what is important to you as a consumer. Like we might not have the right answer for you, but there's if your ideas for sustainability or veganism, look into that. If you want a very durable thing, look into that. There will always be like a solution out there that is specific for you.
Yeah, define your values.
Yeah.
Great, thanks so much, you guys. I guess that's it. I'm so thankful for this interview. You guys did amazing. Really cool, very funny, very interesting.